As 2025 approaches, you know in your soul, you feel it in your bones, that you have so much more to give to the world, so much more potential to actualize, so much more creativity to pour into manifested reality than you're currently allowing yourself to. You know that next year is a critical year for you to harness all your time and energy and awareness and put it into something that matters to you. You've reached a point where you can't keep going backwards to the places, the jobs, the experiences, the relationships that don't satiate you at a deep level. So what do you do next? This 2025 up level is going to require you to become more masterful with your energy than ever before. Let's dive into your 2025 self-mastery roadmap. Hello beautiful soul, welcome to Temple of Akasha. My name is Natasha and this is the home of embodied spirituality. If you're new to the channel, welcome. This is a space dedicated to self-mastery, integrated awakening, spiritual embodiment, sacred partnership, and soul Dharma actualization. Before I continue, a quick announcement about the pre-sale of my new course, The 5 Pillars of Self-Love. Due to Mercury retrograde / divine intervention, I had some real issues with the sales button. So I had a lot of people telling me that they couldn't purchase the 5 Pillars of Self-Love pre-sale. And so I've decided to extend the pre-sale for 3 days until the 15th of December. The pre-sale will end at midnight on that day. And I've capped the price at £33, which was the last sale I made using the bump sale method that I was using before the website crashed and everything went to pot. So you can now get the pre-sale of this course that's launching on the 1st of January 2025 and is full price at £99 for just £33. This course is so robust. It's such a foundational, fundamental tool, I feel, for any person on a serious integrated awakening journey. I still use this framework that I've created every single day of my life to show up for myself, to cultivate deeper self-love, deeper self-trust, and to actualize my soul's knowing. I've developed a framework which includes 5 pillars: our needs, our values, our boundaries, our dreams and desires, and self-validation. You're going to get a comprehensive workbook full of information, exercises, self-inquiry practices, as well as video material teaching you each pillar and guided integration practices, either in video or audio format, for every pillar. It's a game changer, it's fundamental for an integrated awakening, and it's yours for the next 3 days for just £33. The links that you need are in the description box below if this interests you. And now let's continue with today's video. So 2025 is just around the corner. The numerology of 2025 reduces to a 9, and the energy of 9, I'm sure you can feel it. It's the last single digit number before we reach 10, and it's kind of completion. We're reaching the end of our journey. We're not quite at the end, but we're coming to the end. And it's very much this energy of let's go all in. That's the energy I feel for this coming year. It's like, let's go all in. Let's really take everything we've been learning, everything that we've been integrating, everything we've become aware of, and let's put it to good use. Let's apply it so that we can really mobilize our Dharma, our destiny, what truly matters to us in service, not just to our own soul's growth, but to actualizing and anchoring the new earth. And I feel that for many of us, the energy we're kind of experiencing right now is this sense of, it really is time to go all in. It is time for this level up. It's time to stop tiptoeing around the Dharma, around the dreams. It's time to stop sort of dipping our toe in and then pulling back because it's a bit new. I've never felt that temperature or I felt that texture before, of what I'm diving into. We are really entering new territory in what our souls are asking us to expand into. We're entering a completely new paradigm. We are rapidly starting to feel the age of Aquarius descending. This is being marked by Pluto moving into Aquarius. We are really starting to feel this pioneering, innovative, collaborative kind of almost hive. Like, the way I feel it is almost like a mycelium network coming online. And that's how I see the new earth, that this new architecture new ancient architecture that is being anchored through us, is being brought through us and our embodiment and our state of consciousness. It is a reassembling of the organic way of life on earth, which is to recognize that we are as one. It's one of synergy, which we'll speak about in one of the points today. And in order for us to come into greater coherence, greater union as a whole, it's really important that we all step up and actualize our greatest potential, our Dharma, fulfill our unique role in the wider web of life. And I'd love to just share a quote that stood out to me in a film I watched a few weeks ago. The film was Cold Mountain. It's quite an old film, you might be familiar with it, but it was the first time I watched it. One of the characters shares with the protagonist, "See, I think there's a plan. There's a design for each and every one of us. You look at nature. Bird flies somewhere, picks up a seed, shits the seed out, plant grows. Bird's got a job, shit's got a job, seed's got a job, and you've got a job." Now, I will admit that this quote is a bit crass, but I hope that it can demonstrate and illustrate what I'm trying to get across. And that really spoke to me, because when we're looking out at the wider landscape on Earth right now and these conditions that we've incarnated in, this end of an epoch, the beginning of a new era for humanity, we can feel overwhelmed not knowing, how do we contribute so that humanity doesn't annihilate itself? It can feel quite paralyzing. It can feel as though there's nothing that can be done, right? When you look at the wider landscape. And this is when we need to start coming back to the micro, that we can't, and we're not supposed to, have answers for the whole. That's God's job. But we are all given individual assignments, individual contributions, and with every person actualizing their contribution, that's how the change is made. And I think that quote beautifully demonstrates it, that everyone has their unique role. We're not all here to do the same job. We're not all here to do it the same way. Your only goal is to focus on getting really masterful at your unique way and your unique path, and doing everything within your power, which is infinite, to actualize that path and potential. So in this video, I'm going to share with you 5 keys for your 2025 upgrade, the actualization of your potential, for you to move into deeper self-mastery, greater awareness, to really take all of this potential you feel within yourself, all of this wisdom, all of this knowledge, all of these gifts, all of these unique skills and traits that you have that are uniquely yours. There is no other constellation on earth like you, never has been, never will be. You are totally unique in what you bring to earth at this time, your unique frequency, your unique soul's journey and incarnation experiences, your unique wisdom and insights and vantage point. And that's so valuable to the all. And I know you feel this insatiable itch to take all of this raw inner material, all of this wonderful, dynamic content within yourself, these unique and dynamic aspects of yourself, and create something with it. That's by divine design, because you've come here to be a creator. So now your task is to start creating. We are no longer in that phase of, I'll just dilly-dally and I'll just, dip my toe. Oh, no, okay, no. Enough dilly-dallying. 2025 is the year where we get the job done. I'm not saying that we reach whatever end goal we have in mind for ourselves, whatever the target is, whatever we want to move towards, whether it's writing a book, writing an album, starting a business and making it profitable. I'm not saying that you have to be perfect and finalized and completed in that project, but 2025 is the year where you move forwards from a level of mastery that, if you maintain that, is going to actualize your goal without a doubt. Earlier today, I was listening to a podcast, and the guest speaker, Pressfield, who's an author, was speaking about how we can approach life from 2 vantage points, either as the amateur or as the pro. The amateur approaches their life and their project from a kind of state of whimsy and fun, and I just do that on the side, and I'm doing it for my own gratification. And if you can feel into the energy of that, it's uncontained, it's scattered, it's not committed. It's sort of, it's flimsy. It's flimsy, and that's because the amateur isn't committed like a professional's committed. But if we think about this in relation to our Dharma, we've come here to be professionals. We've come here to actualize our potential, and we're the only ones that can do that for ourselves, which means that we have to approach life as the professional. And the professional shows up in the same way that we show up to a job that we're committed to. We show up every day. We do the thing we're here to do. We stop making excuses. We're consistent. We've got our eyes on the prize. And there is this tenacity. There is this fierce devotion to the actualization of the thing. So it's gone from being this kind of scattered, woozy, uncontained energy to this kind of very contained, very directed, very intentional path. I believe this is the energy that we are here to cultivate in relation to our own Dharma. I do not believe that we have come to earth at this time to treat our soul's path as a hobby. This is your soul we're talking about. Your soul's front and center. It's everything. So it's time to start approaching your life with greater self-mastery. It's time to start approaching your life as the professional. You have been given instructions by God, and you're here to actualize them, and no one else can do that job. And that job is important. So let's dive into 5 ways that you can truly support your 2025 up-level, upgrade, deepening in self-mastery and actualization of your greatest potential. The first point is that you have to get on top of your mind. At this point, I've had the pleasure of working with hundreds of individuals on an awakening journey. One of the most fundamental areas, I believe, to an awakening path is often not mastered in these individuals. So they've got lots of gifts, lots of skills, lots of natural talent. You know, they're luminous. We all are. We all have our own unique luminosity. And yet, because they haven't mastered their minds yet, they haven't still actualize the capacity to observe the mind, to really get dedicated to just watching the mind and not identifying with the content of it, they find themselves endlessly looping and cycling and struggling to make progress. If you truly want to start experiencing a life from a totally different vantage point, as the person you know you came here to be, with the dreams, goals, visions actualized, with your creativity on fire, with your capacities open, with your gifts being shared with the world, with your value being well compensated, you have to get a handle on your mind. And this is a non-negotiable. For me, the capacity to meditate, to be mindful and to observe the mind, this is the foundation of any spiritual path. I don't care what you're qualified in. I don't care what psychic gifts or cities you've got activated. If you can't observe your mind, you will always be governable. You will always forget the truth. And you will never be able to fully actualize your potential if the truth is always veiled to you, because you're too identified with limitation. So the first thing is for 2025, if you know this is you, if you know you're someone whose mind is racing with fear-based thinking, conditioning, it's just constantly churning out, you know, judgments and stories and narratives that are so unhelpful, the first thing to do is to commit yourself to mindset mastery. This includes meditating, so being able to just sit still, not necessarily quiet the mind. That's not necessarily the goal of meditation, although it does come with meditation over time, in my experience. But the goal is just to be able to notice, to be the one that observes, to be the awareness that is not the thought. So meditation, and there are lots of different types of meditations that you can try, whether that's with mantra, whether that's Vipassana body scanning, whether that's simply following the flow of the breath. But what I will say is this: if you've been working with a spiritual practice or a meditation practice for some time now, and you are not seeing results in this area, you are still struggling to be mindful in your day-to-day life, you are still outside of your meditation practice, getting lost in your thinking, you know, getting absorbed in the mind's content, it's time to change things up. It's time to shift how you're approaching this. It's time to change the practice. It's time to adopt a different strategy. Meditation is one way that we can really start to observe the mind. But the most powerful practice, if you truly want to start resting as the awareness, is mindfulness. Mindfulness is choosing to be aware, present, in the moment on a day-to-day, moment-to-moment basis. It is through your lived experience that you start to experience yourself as awareness, that you start to transcend the mind. It's not just in solitude, it's not just in stillness, away from the hubbub of life. It's when you're in the middle of life and you've got lots of content that the mind will want to feast on and judge and create stories about, and you're still choosing to be present. That's when you truly flex your capacity for mindset mastery. So my suggestion is taking up a mindfulness practice and starting to integrate mindfulness throughout your day. I also want to mention at this point that as we go through greater purging as a collective, we're receiving huge amounts of light from the sun as the sun goes through its own transformation, and we're being hit by lots of solar activity. There's a lot of light coming to the planet, and as we go through this rapid evolution as a collective, there is a lot of subconscious content being purged from our systems, lots of feelings, lots of energies, lots of changes and transformation. This is all potential content for the mind. If we do not have a handle on our minds at this point, we're going to be governed by the external world. Our external conditions and reality will have dominion over us. That's not a good place to be if self-mastery is your goal. That is not a good place to be in a world that is constantly changing, transforming, rapidly evolving, and is likely to get very unstable over the next couple of years and decades, perhaps even centuries. The self-mastery that you knew you would need to cultivate for this incarnation starts with your capacity to observe your mind. So if you take nothing else away from this video, my primary suggestion is focus on this and watch how everything else transforms, because your awareness and your capacity to observe is you holding space, your true nature holding space for all of life's content, all of life's dynamism. You no longer become entrenched in and swept up in the waves of life and in Shakti, right, the feminine, dynamism, energy, flowing in motion. You are both the observer of this content, of this dynamism, and the direct experience of it, and the creator of it. But your awareness is an essential part of that union between your masculine and feminine. Your awareness is you holding that masculine pole for Shakti, for dynamism, for expression, which actually gives your Shakti element, your feminine element, the space to express, to feel deeply embodied, sensually alive, creative, in flow, without getting lost in the undulations, without starting to become identified with the highs and lows and ping-ponging, yo-yoing. Your awareness is fundamental. Cannot stress this enough. The second point I want to raise: own your desires. This is going to require you to get honest, and it's also going to require you to draw on that first point of getting a handle on the mind, because once you start tapping into your organic desires, visions, goals for yourself and your dharma, if you have an untrained and untamed mind, that mind is going to say, not good enough for that, not worthy enough, don't have the skills for that, I'm not ready, blah, 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 blah. And if you're too busy listening to those stories and investing in that narrative, you will never actualize your visions and goals. So once you start connecting to this innate sense within you of, honestly, what matters to me? What am I excited about? What do I want to do with this beautiful, precious life I've got? What sets my soul on fire? What am I uniquely designed to do with all of the skills and gifts I've got? It probably doesn't exist in the world yet, what you're here to do in your unique way. Remember that. So it's important not to be trying to look for an external model for exactly how you want to be in the world. You can take inspiration from people, but your unique blueprint has never been seen by the world before. It's going to require you to deeply listen within, to feel, to be honest, to get past the conditioning of the mind, and then shows up in the body as kind of constriction and contraction and limitation, and actually give yourself the grace to say, okay, if I'm no longer inflating or denying the truth, and I'm truly on a soul-led path, which means that I'm here to be devoted to truth, really what matters to me? What do I really want to be doing with my time? What is the assignment? And that's not necessarily knowing the specific path. It's knowing I'm supposed to be writing in some way. I'm supposed to be weaving in my love of art, drama, music, food, gardening, I don't know, pottery, sewing, science, whatever it is, sex. I'm supposed to be weaving this thing I love, these topics, these areas, these themes, into what I'm doing in my life. How? How do you want to do that? What excites you? And once you start getting an idea of your visions and your goals, your dreams for yourself, once you start really feeling into the kind of unique architecture of what you want to experience and create in this incarnation, you've got to own it. You've got to own your whats. You've got to own your whys. So no one else has the capacity to understand and actualize what you're here to do like you do. That's no one else's role, that's no one else's responsibility, and you cannot just expect and look to those around you for them to validate and feed that vision and goal. You have to step up for yourself and claim it for you. No one else is going to claim your vision for you. No one else is going to say, it's time. It's time for you to do the thing that you're really gifted at, talented at, that you really love, that you really care about. That's your responsibility. That's you developing the mastery to understand that you are a creator and it's your free will choice. So own your desire to create, own your desire to expand as a soul, own your desire to be a masterful being, the master of your own destiny, and do not take no for an answer. Once you understand the architecture, the felt sense, it will come to you depending on your intuitive gifts and how you receive your own psychic information. But once you start feeling into the architecture of your dreams and goals, do not take no for an answer. Observe this, stay connected to the highest vision, get honest with yourself. The mind is going to want to say, oh, but I can't, and I don't have the resources, and I'm not valuable enough, and I'm not worthy, and yada, 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 yada. If you do not get a handle on the mind, you're going to be like a dog chasing its tail. Round and round and round and round and round and round and round. No, enough. Enough. We haven't got time for that. It's time. I'm going to lovingly invite you to come back. Come back to the truth. What is it that you want? What is it that you care about? What are you hungry for? What do you want to create? Own your desire. You cannot move forwards with your soul's dharma and destiny until you do this. And by the way, you probably have more than one desire. You may have an entire tapestry map of desires. That's great. Start feeling into what those things are. What are the components? What are the felt sense experiences of that? How do you want to feel in your life? Who do you want to be surrounded by? What environments do you want to be in? What do you want to be doing day to day? How do you want to be spending your time? These are all things we speak about in the 5 pillars of self-love, by the way, because one of the fundamental pillars is dreams and desires. But it's really time to start feeling into the micro elements of the vision. Start to see it, feel it, sense it, taste it, touch it, and then own it unapologetically. No more bending or meandering or flapping around it. Own it. Own it and do not waver from it. The third point to bring forwards today, reclaim your capacity for play and pleasure. When I was feeling into 2025, what was really coming through for me was that our capacity for play and pleasure, which has been so sidelined and overruled and diminished in the adult experience, is actually a very fundamental part of us being able to actualize what we want to do in life, especially from the frequency that we're seeding on the new earth, not from the old architecture of pushing and hustling and grinding and burning ourselves out and completely demolishing the soul. No, we've come here to do this in an integrated way. So we do the work, but also we're connected to that feminine principle. We cherish our inner child. We cherish that eternal inner luminosity within us. We cherish that sacral energy of creativity, sensuality, sexuality. And we really allow that. Once we start tapping into that, we allow it, that flow of eros, that pulse of pleasure, desire, play, to fuel us. Now, our sacral energy, this energy I'm speaking about, especially around pleasure and play, it's really tied up with a lot of guilt and shame. So we tend to be storing and feeling a lot of guilt and shame in the sacral. This center within us governs our sexuality, our sensuality, and our connection to our reproductive organs. So there's a lot of conditioning here that tells us, either outrightly or perhaps at a more subconscious, subtle level, that pleasure and play are wrong. This has been echoed throughout religious dogma, it's ingrained within certain spiritual systems and teachings, and it's time to recognize how fundamentally damaging it is to diminish our innate capacity to feel pleasure and to want to play as beings. Pleasure and play are our birthright. And we are in the process now of undoing millennia of conditioning that says those things are wrong, evil, bad, selfish, blah, 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 blah. Of course, if we're just indulged purely in pleasure and play and we don't integrate the whole pillar of Sushumna, the whole channel, all of the centers online, integrated, awake, active in their faculties and capacities, of course that's going to be imbalanced. But I'm speaking about integrated awakening here, and a fundamental part of the self-mastery path is being connected to our eros, being connected to our pleasure, our desire, our sensuality, our sexuality, our ability to receive the beauty, the richness, the deliciousness of life, to be able to dance with life, not just focused on end goal and move kind of relentlessly in this very dry, harsh way towards it. It's recognizing that the journey is just as sacred as the destination. So we've spoken about our goals, very important division, very important masculine quality to be able to see the direction we're going in and to want to move towards it. The way we integrate that feminine principle into this is to start reclaiming our play and pleasure. It's time to start thinking about reclaiming the aspects of you that maybe you set aside as a young child, as a teenager, as an adult, because you thought that there was no space for them in a normal adult life. It's time to start owning all parts of yourself, bring them back into the fold. For me, that's been a process of reconnecting to my love of drama, acting, expression. And it's not to say that I've gone onto a stage and actually acted. It's just reclaiming the part of me that loves that energy of being very expressed. That part of me that's very Leo-esque. I'm a Leo sun. You know, I love to wear things that feel sensual and sumptuous and bold and creative. I love to be in spaces that feel alive with this energy. I love to express in this way. It doesn't mean that I want to go on to be an actor, but I do want to revive this aspect in my life. I want to be in environments that inspire me, that are creatively rich. I want to be connected to pleasure and play and joy and beauty, because that's what feeds my soul. And so when we start connecting to pleasure and play again, we're coming back to the juice. For me, when I connect with the sacral energy, and the element associated with the sacral energy is water, what I feel is this sense of juice. When we're connected to the sacral, we're being nourished and topped up by this beautiful well, this well of life force that wants to lubricate our lives. So it's no longer a dry, you know, shriveled up, hollow existence, but it's full and it's overflowing and it's abundant. And it feels vital and delicious and rich. And this is our birthright. The fourth point that I want to bring forward, and this is a huge one, and I would say that alongside getting a real handle on the mind, this is the fundamental point, especially to the audience that I'm speaking to, because I know a lot of you resonate with my content and we're working from sort of similar frequency bandwidths, as I like to call them. And so we're kind of sharing similar journeys, we're moving through similar themes, and I know that one of the areas that requires some work is our capacity to be consistent. It's our capacity to actually show up and devote ourselves to aligned doing. And you can kind of see how everything I'm sharing today builds on the previous point, you know, so we've got a handle on our minds. That allows us to kind of get clear on the vision. And then once we've got connected to the mind and the vision, we get connected to this sense of play and joy and pleasure, and life starts to feel juicy and well lubricated again. And then in order to actually actualize the goal, the vision, the dream, and to not just stay in this sort of potential energy that is the creation energy that comes with our sexual energy and our sensuality and our play and our pleasure, we could just stay looping in that, and it's kind of like constant gestation, nothing gets birthed. So we have to integrate that feminine energy with its masculine counterpart, and that is taking action. It's actually saying, right, I see the vision, I'm connected to the joy and the pleasure and the play, and I'm being well sustained by that energy as I actualize the vision, but I do actually have to do stuff to make it happen. I can tell you from my personal experience that When I honestly introspect and I look at myself and I look at all that I've accomplished so far and all that I still want to accomplish, the only reason why I haven't actualized what I want to actualize is because of consistency, if I'm being really honest with myself. I have the skills, I have the talents, I see my worth and value, I know what I'm here to offer the world, I understand my unique blueprint, maybe not in its entirety, but I've got a pretty good handle on, my unique iteration of creation at this point. What has got in the way of me really stepping into and living my Dharma more fully has been my lack of consistency, my lack of dedication to showing up and taking the action. I do have this tendency, and it's in my astrology. My south node is at 29 degrees in the 12th house. I've spent many incarnations in this kind of dreamy energy of the subconscious. 12th house is ruled by Pisces. Lots of floaty, dreamy, sort of fantastical, slightly avoidant ways sometimes. And this life, my soul is really asking me, Tash, you've got to get structured, babe. You've got to implement routines. You've got to be consistent. You've got to have a plan, and you've got to actually make that plan a reality. You've got to take all that dreamy energy that you have the capacity to tap into and do something with it. For God's sake, do something with it. And if you can relate to this, then this message is also for you. And I know there's a lot of us out there, a lot of us that are big dreamers with big hearts, with so much potential, but it's all just potential unless we actually do something with it. So now, for 2025, you've got the potential, it's all there. What are you going to do at a day-to-day, tangible, mundane level to start building the bridge between where you are now and where you want to be? How are you going to show up? How are you going to start building the thing? This includes your habits and routines on a day-to-day basis. Your capacity to nurture yourself, to love yourself, again, we speak about this in the 5 pillars of self-love, your capacity to nourish yourself, to look after yourself, to love yourself well, forms the foundation of aligned doing. So it means identifying what habits, routines, ways of being do you need to tend to on a daily basis to feel vital, to feel motivated, to feel well, to feel juicy, to feel well pleasured. What do you need on a day-to-day basis to tend to yourself and to tend to your fundamental needs? For me, it's eating well, exercising, and taking time for my soul. So whether that is through meditation, journaling, dance, Kundalini yoga, soul journeying, yoga nidra is a big one that I've been tapping into recently. Those 3 things are fundamental for me. When I feed myself well on a daily basis, and I've really been committed to this for the last 6 months, and it's been a game changer in terms of influencing how I show up in other areas of my life. When I exercise every single day or move my body in some way every single day, when I really commit to mobilizing the energy in my body and starting to move the body, because I do have a tendency towards stagnation. So movement, physical movement is very helpful for that and very important for me. And when I really tend to the part of me, the projector part of me that needs rest, that is quite hermit-like, that needs to go within, that needs to still be connected to the soul's luminosity on a day-to-day basis, when I do those 3 things, I feel much more robust to show up for my life and to do what needs to be done. I'm actually going to link the podcast that I listened to earlier today because I think it's very relevant to this point. And it was very motivating around this point, around consistency, and when we're creatives or entrepreneurs and we are moving through a project or moving towards a project, we're naturally going to meet resistance. We're naturally going to not want to do the thing sometimes, and it's consistency that is the difference between the potential and the actualization. And I do see a lot of bypassing around this in the spiritual community, and I've certainly been guilty of this as well, where there can be such a focus on the energetics or the visioning or the kind of embodiment side. So really focusing on your kind of inner landscape and architecture, which is also super important. I'm not diminishing that. But we also have to recognize that we've come into physical bodies. We've come into a physical world of form, which is much denser, it's much slower, it does require that action is taken. There are states of separation here in form, that's how we experience the world, and creation requires doing. Creation requires us taking different aspects of physical reality and bringing them together. And that's part of the play and fun of being in a human body on Earth. that we get to experience this. But it is an essential part of the process. And I feel that it's a huge deal breaker between whether or not we stay as these kind of eternal Peter Pan-like individuals who are so full of potential and so connected to the magic, but never manage to move into states of actualization, never manage to mature into our potential and become the pro, as I spoke about earlier in the video, to become the master of our own destinies. It's the consistency that's the difference. And the fifth point that I want to bring forwards today is that of collaboration and synergy. And when I see this, I spoke about this a little bit earlier, I see this grid of light forming on the earth. I see that we are starting to very rapidly now, as the age of Aquarius comes online and we start moving through more profound shifts within ourselves, we are starting to remember the organic architecture of life on earth, the natural way of things, that we are one web of life connected. And we're moving from these very hyper-independent programmed ways that we've been living in for the last few thousand years, and we're starting to return to this innate remembrance of synergy, which is that when multiple parts come together and work together in harmony and coherence to create something that they could never create on their own. And I feel that this is a very essential architecture for the new earth. It's a recognition that we can go much further together than we can when we're all on our own. And we are not here to do things alone. We don't have to carry the programming that we're an island anymore. It's time to start leaning into tribe. It's time to start opening to receiving support again. It's time to start relinquishing the power-hungry ways that say, I need to be the one that does this and I'm captain of the ship and no one else can, be involved in this project because I need all the glory. True leadership and true pioneering, innovative ways require us to recognize that if we're going to do this thing on earth, life on earth, in a healthy way, in a way that serves all life, in a way that sustains us and doesn't annihilate us, we need to come into right relationship, and that is seeing ourselves as equals, all life as equal. In that equality, we can meet each other's divinity and humanity in a way that honors all life and allows us to create and exchange and build in miraculous ways that are never possible if we try and do it on our own. And it's actually way more effortful, way more painful, way more rooted in separation and segregation and, egoic thinking, egoic identities. When we try to hold on to it's my way, when we try to grasp onto this idea that we are an island, which is just a fallacy. We're not. Nature is our biggest teacher in form. And when we look out at our world, our beautiful home, she is a master teacher of synergy, that these beautiful ecosystems form and that somehow life is sustained through lots of dynamic elements coming together. There is this synergy that is formed. There are ecosystems that are formed. There is this harmony that is created. There is a balance that's created. Nature naturally knows this. It's an innate intelligence that we also hold the codes for and have forgotten because of our conditioning, because we've been bombarded with programming that encourages separation, segregation, fracturing, fragmenting, individuation to the degree that actually robs us of the sacred knowing that we are as one. We are coming into this remembrance again. And central to that, I believe, is this capacity for collaboration and synergy. And it just feels huge for 2025. When I feel into 2025, I see it almost like these living mycelium networks coming together. I see people joining and, creating, teams mobilizing, projects building, and it happens together. So it's really important to create space for collaboration, really important to lean in and get honest about, do I actually want to do this alone? And if I don't, where could I really use support? Where could I give support? What am I good at and what am I not so good at? If your vision for something is global, if your vision for something is worldwide, it's a recognition that you are going to need teams with you. You're going to need infrastructure. You're going to need an entire system that's working together to make this thing mobilized and to bring it to the world. So it's getting honest about what you're good at and making space for collaboration over comparison and competition, and actually recognizing that no, there's innate value, there's great value when I recognize my limitations as a being and I bring people on board who have got beauty, talent, brilliance in ways that I don't have. Because when we come together, then something magical can be born. I feel that this energy is really coming to life now, and it's going to be a really inherent part of how we create in 2025 and beyond. So I hope this has been a valuable reflection for you. I'd really love to hear in the comments what your visions are for 2025. What is it that you are hungry to actualize now? What have you been preparing for? What does 2025 mean for you at a soul level? What are you ready to go all in with? I would really love to hear your reflections and comments and what you're working on. And I look forward to continuing to inspire one another, uplift one another, celebrate one another, create together, collaborate together, teach one another. That's one thing I really love about YouTube as a platform. I mean, all of this negative and heavy stuff aside, you know, with regards to censorship and stuff, if we're just drilling down to the beauty of this platform and the people on it, the channels I interact with and that I've been discovering really contain so much gold, so much beauty, so much artistry that is really inspiring to me. And I feel really honored that I've connected with this platform in this way, because YouTube to me is like this miraculous world where all of these artists, these beautiful souls, are just gifting the world their artistry, their beauty, their insights, their wisdom for free. And I get to see that, and I get to experience that frequency, and I get to contribute to that. So I'm really grateful to be here, and I want to say a big thank you to everyone that watches this content, that has contributed with a like, a comment, subscribing, sharing, that has reflected back to me how valuable the content is, because it really lights me up to know that it's being received. It's one thing for me to create for the joy of creating, but it is another thing to know that the content's being received and it's helpful, it's uplifting, it's inspiring. That's why I do it. So thank you for being on the channel. And I so look forward to really going for it in 2025 with you. Take good care, and I look forward to connecting with you again in the next transmission.